Good afternoon. You're listening to My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Jasmine Urbina, here in the studio today with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. And today we're going to be talking about instilling self-esteem in your kids. So this kind of came up because you had previously just done a seminar for the Heart District about bullying, and it started with bullying. But I went to the seminar, and the way I understood it, there was another gentleman there. He was a psychologist, I believe, and he was talking about the act of bullying and the idea of bullying. And then your presentation was a little bit more about who you're being to your kids to teach them to stand up for themselves and take a stand and not get bullied. So there were different angles, both very good. So today we were just going to kind of go over that and go into more detail about.
Yeah, I thought it was a great topic, really to talk about, and I wish that there were more parents there. And so, I think it's a good opportunity for us to talk about it again and have it recorded so that people can, always refer back to it, listen to it. It was an opportunity, to take it as a tool to, educate ourselves and learn a little bit more about how to build self-esteem. And so what I did was I kind of just wrote down some bullet points from my own book of, from the last 20 years of how I have built my own self-esteem or instilled my own self-esteem within myself and self-confidence within myself. And then, I took some pages out of my own parenting manual on how I did it with my kids, and, you being one of them, of course, and just kind of threw it in a PowerPoint presentation. I thought it'd be, cool to have a conversation about that. And I think, starting it off, what self-esteem to me, what it really boils down to is self-love. I think that when you love yourself so much and you get to a higher level of self-love, you just automatically take care of yourself. You stand real proud about who you are. You see yourself as a gift. You protect yourself. You don't let people take advantage of you. You don't have a problem saying to somebody, hey, you don't get to speak to me like that, or hey, that's not okay. You love yourself so much that you're going to protect yourself the same way you would as a parent. You love your kids. Some parents love their kids more than they love themselves. And I feel like I'm in that category. I love you guys so much, I would take a bullet for you. I'd give up my life for you. And if I'm going to give up my life for you, that means I'm going to defend you. If it comes down to somebody, taking advantage of you or hurting you, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to be your biggest champion. I'm going to be there ready to fight and defend, your honor and to not let anything happen to you. Well, you got to see yourself like that too. You got to love yourself to that level that you say, no one gets to talk to me like that or treat me in any bad way. And I think that's what it boils down to is learning how to love yourself to a really high level.
Yeah, I remember too at the seminar you had mentioned, you had actually asked people, and one of the parents had answered, but you asked them, how many of you know that you have a relationship with yourself? And I remember, only a few people raised their hand, but I remember when I was 16 or 17, realizing that for the first time that, wow, I'm like, there's another me there. I'm in a relationship with me. And it was really, really, I don't want to say mind-boggling, but it was like this big explosion had just gone off. Like, I was so excited because all of a sudden, like you said, I had things to compare how to treat myself with. So for example, I don't have kids, but let's say for my parents, like, I love my parents and I would do anything for them. And if someone talked to them rudely, I would not, I'd say the same thing, the whole, you don't get to talk to my mom that way. But now, because I have something to compare it to, I have this new sense of self-love where I could say, hey, you don't get to talk to me like that.
Yeah, and it's funny, as you were sharing that, I also had that awakening in my early 20s, was for the first time realizing that I do have a relationship with myself. I might not have known it in my teens, or my early 20s, but once somebody pointed it out to me or put me into the question, like, hey, did you realize that you have a relationship with yourself? And if you don't realize it, maybe you should. And then once you do realize it and embrace it, then you now have the opportunity to take responsibility for it. Now, are you gonna grow it, or are you gonna just let it sit there dormant? Or are you going to ignore it? What are you going to do with the possibility that you do have a relationship with yourself, and at what level are you going to, take it to the next level or not? So when we talk about learning to love yourself, I think of it as a practice, and a lot of times we talk about things on this show about being an art form, right? It's something that you have to really practice and master. And I think that learning to love yourself takes a lot of rigorous practice, and it takes a little bit of an art form to, be kind to yourself and do all those things that you necessarily need to do to really develop this higher sense of self-love. And so let's talk about some of these things. Number one I wrote down is, you actually have to create and develop a healthy, loving, and kind relationship with yourself first. So later on, I'm going to talk about how to develop self-confidence in your kids, how to be that facilitator to help them build that self-confidence and self-love. But first, who does it start with?
The parent.
It starts with me. I actually have to begin or embark on this process first so that I can be the example to my kids, and it gives me permission to be able to teach them that. I'm not going to sit back here and try to coach my kids and instill all this self-love and self-esteem and try to build their confidence if I haven't practiced it myself. Does that seem a little unfair to be thinking that I can sit back here and try to teach somebody when I haven't practiced it myself? So we're going to start the segment off with looking at how do I create it for myself. And so the first step is you deciding that you're going to develop a healthy, loving relationship with you first. And then that's going to be your starting point. Number two, what I think is important is that you have to learn how to complete your past. When I say that, what does that mean to you? When I say complete your past, what kind of visual do you get?
I kind of imagine one door closing and then the door in front of me opening and forgetting about that other door.
Yeah, like letting it go, realizing that the past doesn't exist anymore. It's only going to exist if I continue to drag it along into each new moment. And what happens is, inherently, most of us as human beings, we carry all of our past and all the residual pain and resentment and guilt and shame, and we bring all those nasty experiences and we drag them into this new moment. And we taint the new moment of unlimited possibilities, and we sabotage relationships. We sabotage opportunities, and whatever could be possible, we actually destroy all that because we're bringing past fears and past insecurities. So I think it's very important, if you're going to develop this new relationship with yourself called higher love for yourself, you really have to go through a process where you learn how to complete your past and let go of stuff. And the way that you can do that is either get yourself a therapist or get yourself in a transformational training, or teach yourself how to maybe cathartically release some of it through writing or prayer or yoga. Or you're going to have to make some kind of conscious intention to learn how to let go of some things that you could be, some baggage that you could be carrying with you, regrets or not wanting to forgive somebody or holding on to stuff. And you got to learn how to let all that go, like a full surrendering, a full cleansing of all that. And completing your past is very important, and it's one of the pivotal things, I think, in you being able to free yourself up to be able to love yourself at a higher level.
And would you say that the completing your past thing kind of has to do with self-limiting beliefs and all those other things that kind of stop us from being confident?
Absolutely. We have a bunch of unconscious self-limiting beliefs that we've created, these stories that aren't necessarily true, but we operate as though they are, and they're real for us. Number three is to forgive yourself so that you can forgive others. And I always say this in the training room. I say, when you do something out of integrity and you think no one's watching, who is really watching?
Me.
You are. You're watching yourself steal that thing. You're watching yourself not give back that extra money someone gave you. You're watching yourself doing those, hopefully minor things that are out of integrity that you just overlook or that you don't hold yourself accountable for. And every time you do that, you see yourself do it. So that's you in relationship to yourself. So you know that there are things that you've done that aren't, at a higher level of integrity. And so sometimes when you see that and you try to ignore it, it's still in our context. And I think it's very healthy for us every 3 to 6 months to go through a process where we learn how to constantly surrender and let some of the things that we go that we're not proud of. And the way that you do that is through an art form called forgiveness. And you got to learn how to forgive yourself so that it frees you up to be able to learn how to forgive others. And I think that's a very powerful process in the art form of loving yourself. Number 4 is going to be learn how to accept everything about you. Now, when I say learn how to accept everything about you, what do you think of?
All the things that I don't like about me are me, so I have to either learn how to love them or be stuck on it forever.
Now, what I hear you say is that you're judgmental of yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're always criticizing yourself, and you've got this process that things don't ever seem to be good enough, and you're always looking at yourself and going, why didn't I do that, and only if I could do this. And so you have this process where you're really hard on yourself. And this process of learning how to just accept that, hey, I have a big nose, so what? It is what it is. Now what? Now let's keep moving forward, because it doesn't matter to me anymore. Or, I can't believe that I didn't do that. And it's like, okay, so what? Living out of so what, I think, is very powerful, because it allows you to get off of things and learning how to accept them and embrace them and either carry them with you or just surrender it or letting them go. But I think that learning how to accept everything about you, the self-acceptance, is what really generates this peace within yourself. And that's important. Number 5 is learn how to be authentic. What does learning how to be authentic mean to you?
First, I want to say that so far this seems to be, to me, like it would be interpreted as the hardest one or the most challenging one, to be authentic, even though it's actually the simplest one. And to me, being authentic is just being you without all the other things getting in the way.
But why would you think that it would be simple? To me, being authentic is not a simple process.
I think actually being the actual, I don't want to say act of doing, but the act of being authentic is a very simple concept.
Once you get there.
Right.
But the stuff that gets in the way of you realizing that you're not being authentic is the challenging part.
Right. So that's the challenging part, where people are like, oh my God, how am I supposed to be authentic? But it's actually pretty simple once you get past all that stuff.
Right. And most people right now, even as you're listening to my voice, you already have decided that you are already authentic. And that's the challenging part, is being able to see yourself and realize in that moment that you're not as authentic as you think you are. And it's funny, because people will ask me, they'll come to me and they'll say, how do I know if I'm authentic or not? And then my common response is, if you have to ask me that question, then you're probably not. And for me, I had to realize, it was a gut shot for me to actually be in a training room and see my ego so big that I got crystal clear that I wasn't being authentic. And I was so disturbed that it actually moved me to tears. It was not the person that I wanted to be. And so having that realization and realizing all the games that I was playing and all the walls I was putting up and all the attention seeking and all those kinds of dysfunctions that I was doing unconsciously was a turnoff. But once I went through that process, it really woke me up. And I was glad that I had honest people in my life that loved me, that were willing to give me that feedback and kind of guide me through that process. But once you can finally learn how to live your life just being you, without playing any games, without protecting yourself, and learn how to live an authentic experience in your life, I think that's a very powerful key distinction of you realizing how amazing you are, how powerful you are, how unique you are. And ultimately, that's going to parlay onto your own self-esteem and self-confidence. Number 6 is to constantly repeat positive affirmations to yourself. Every day, all day long. I'm a powerful, passionate, loving man. Things come to me effortlessly. I give from abundance. I'm a contribution to the world. The next person I see, I'm going to support them. As I walk into the door, I'm going to ask 5 people what they're up to. I'm going to be more interested in people than being interesting. You have to really trick your mind. You have to trick your ego into being that person that you want to design yourself to be. by default, we have all these self-limiting beliefs that have us show up, quirky and weird and obnoxious and arrogant, and we have all these things that get in the way, and we don't realize we're doing that. And one of the ways that you can really see that is by deciding that you want to show up in a powerful way, and then create powerful affirmations, so that every day you're reminding yourself of who is it that I want to be today, and show up in the world in this powerful way.
Yeah, I learned about affirmations at a very young age, so I didn't really understand the concept of them. I just kind of did them because that's something that I was told was a good idea. But for me, how I really understood the value of it was after saying the same thing over and over again, one day finally saying, like, why am I saying this? I know for example, if it's saying I'm loving, I would wake up and say, why am I still saying this? I am loving. I know that I'm love. So I need a new one. And that's like the most exciting part, is sometimes it takes a couple months, sometimes it takes a couple years before you actually say, you know what, I don't need this one anymore, or I've outgrown this one, I am this, and then you get to decide a new one.
Yeah, and I think the trick of the affirmation is to say it so much, so constantly, that you end up becoming it. So, and what I like to tell people is, if you want to pick 3 powerful affirmations to start off with in your journey of consciousness and higher learning, is to find first discover what your 3 insecurities are. So if you have an insecurity of being shy, you would pick the opposite of being shy. You would call yourself brave or outgoing or courageous. So one of those words would be a part of your affirmation. I am a courageous, worthy, powerful woman. I'm a committed, loving, vulnerable man. You're going to find the 3 words that are the opposite of whatever it is your fear is or your insecurity, so that it reminds you and has you focus on being that, rather than letting your unconscious self-limiting belief and negative self-talk be talking to you. And what's amazing is that our self-limiting beliefs, those are also affirming us. So you're either going to take a conscious effort to create 3 words that you're going to consciously train yourself to be, or you're just going to sit back idle and let that little voice constantly reminding you that you're not good enough and that people don't care about you. And so one way or the other, you have that little voice that's talking to you, and it's actually helping you or hindering you, and you have to decide that you want to take control of that. We're going to go on a break in a few minutes, so let's kind of wrap it up with this one for the first segment. So number 7 is to surround yourself with heartfelt people who inspire and empower you to be great. And they say that you can tell the character of somebody by looking at the 3 or 4 people that they spend the most time with. Your inner circle has to be really tight. If you want to grow and develop, you have to surround yourself with powerful, positive, and empowering people. Those people have to be speaking into your greatness. One of my greatest experience of having coaches and mentors in my life was that they were always speaking into my greatness, and I always wanted to be around them. No matter where they were going, I was always inviting myself, hey, can I go with you guys? Yeah, no, sure, no problem. And the reason why is because I wanted to hear them turn around and go, hey, you got this, go ahead and do it. Like it was like they believed in me more than I believed in myself, and I needed that at that time. And I think that most people need that, especially in the early stages of you developing yourself. You got to surround yourselves around eagles, so that one day you'll realize that you're up in the air and you're flying, rather than hanging around a bunch of turkeys, and until one day you realize that you're gobbling and you're not able to get off the ground. Yeah,
it's kind of funny because unless you don't have friends or you don't like to hang out with people, everybody has a group of friends. You're going to have friends regardless. Why not make them people who are going to inspire you? Or why not make them people that are going to lead you or, try to get you to the next level? And like I said, unless you don't have friends or you don't want to be around people, it almost doesn't make sense to want to pull yourself back or keep yourself on the ground with, like you said, the turkeys instead of the eagles.
And what I'm not saying, and I want to preface this, what I'm not saying is to go out and fire all of your friends because you realize that they're all turkeys. You know, I have many circles of friends. I have 2 or 3 circles that are very powerful and inspiring people and mentors, and I spend time with some of them when I need to get re-energized and be empowered. Then I have other friends that are all different levels, and I'm not in judgment of any of them. I love them all, but what I'm saying is that you have to take a proactive approach and really self-designing the people around you. You got to create the committee of people that are going to be around you to develop and grow in. And it's just it's a conscious effort to decide that you're going to create these kinds of circles so that you can continue to grow.
Sounds great. We'll get back to more of it after the break. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.